Hi Fixer family, it's Charmin. Welcome to Fixin' 2. So today's video is going to be a fun one. I decided to go back to 2020, which is not that long ago, but I wanted to look at my top 8 Valentine projects and bring them all together for you today. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's what you're going to need for this project. You're going to need 3 books. Now, I got these books from the Dollar Tree a while back. They're hardback books, and you can use softback, but I prefer the hardback books with the covers. You're going to need a pair of scissors and some kind of a ruler. I'm also going to be using some burlap ribbon along with some scrap fabric that I got from Walmart a while back, and of course some twine. This will be for the embellishment. And then I'm also going to be using some decals that I printed off of my silhouette. Now you can use stickers from the Dollar Tree, anything like that will work. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the cover and we're going to use that. Now you can also use this brown craft paper like I'm using here to protect my work surface. That will work perfect as well. But having the covers, it was really cool that I could take and flip them over and they were solid white. And so I could just use them and not have to worry about cutting out the proper size of the cover. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take and measure the binder, the bind of the book, so that we can make sure that we get the proper size on us cutting out the silhouette or purchasing stickers. You also can use the transfer method using a pencil. So what we're going to do is make sure that when we put our stickers or decals onto the bind of the book, I'm going to take mine all the way to one side and get it as close to the edge as possible. And of course, with the covers of a book, it already kind of has those lines in there from where it's been on there, so it's pretty easy to find exactly where you need to place it. And then I just kind of play with it until I get it even, level, and right exactly where I want it. Once I get it where I want it, then I'm going to just take my little squeegee that I use to put my decals down with, press it down really good, and then remove my transfer tape, and then it's ready to put back on the book. And this is what it looks like when it's on the book. We just make sure everything's good and secure, and we're ready to move on to doing that to the other 2 books. And here's what all 3 of them look like together. Now we're ready to embellish. And I'm just using this fabric that I had gotten from Walmart. I think I got it around the 1st of Christmas and never used it, and I thought this would be perfect for this project. It definitely is giving us that Valentine vibe with the red buffalo check. And this is really simple to cut and measure exactly what you're wanting. I'm wanting it just a little bit bigger than the burlap ribbon that I'm using. And since this already has these lines that you can follow, you can measure it out where you want it, make a little cut, and you're good to go. Now that we have this cut, I'm ready to place it onto my books. Now we've got the words put on, the little decals put on one side, and so I'm wanting the rest of the embellishment to go on the opposite side. And you're just going to wrap it around the book. And because these are covers that you're putting on the book, we're going to use some hot glue to secure them down. And you're not hurting the book at all because you're actually putting the hot glue onto the cover. So we're just going to kind of tighten it up and put the hot glue on there and secure it down. So we've got that. Now we're ready to place our burlap ribbon. And I do the exact same thing that I did with the fabric, is by just measuring it and then placing it on there with some hot glue, securing it down. And of course, with this being burlap ribbon, it's very porous. So be very careful when you're putting the hot glue on there. Use something to help you to secure that hot glue so you don't burn your fingers. Now the last piece that I'm putting on here is some twine. And I really just love the way that this kind of finishes it out. You can just wrap it around there as much as you want, and getting it placed around there. And I'm going to tie a bow in mine and make it have that finished look. Here's a quick rundown of what you're going to need. I picked up this love sign from the Dollar Tree, as well as this chipboard heart, and also these metal signs or metal words that come in a pack of 3 with love, XOXO, and Valentine. And I'm going to be using the XOXO on this project. We're also going to be, of course, using paint, so we're going to need 3 different paint brushes. And I'm using 1-inch wide masking tape, but you can also use painter's tape. And then, of course, I'm using black acrylic paint and also red acrylic paint. So let's get started. Now, of course, I'm preparing my sign by removing this twine hanger, because this is meant to hang up, I think, but I'm using it on a shelf, so I'm just going to cut off the twine, but I'm going to leave the hooks because who knows, you may want to one day hang it. So we're going to take and just begin to, the first step of this is to paint completely 2 coats of the red paint. This is your base coat, and you want to cover all of the front and the sides, the inside of the heart, all of that. You don't necessarily have to do the back. You can if you want to. I didn't, but I did make sure that I got 2 coats of the red on the front and on the sides. Now, once I have my 2 coats on here and it's completely dry, you want to make sure that it is completely dry, we're going to grab our masking tape. And of course, the first thing that you want to do is to find the center of the piece that you're painting, because that's going to be the place that you are starting, is right in the middle of your piece. And I basically just laid a ruler down on my piece and found the center, and then easily was able to then put the tape on there. And you want to make sure that you get your tape as straight as possible. Now, I just eyeballed it once I got it in the center. You can go full on rulers and all that, but I just eyeballed it to the best of my ability once I found the center. Now that we've got this first piece down, then you want to take the next piece. Now this piece is going to be what we call our placeholder piece. And we're going to start from the center, working outwards, and we're going to just take and put right up next to that first piece of tape that you put down, you're going to put your placeholder piece. Once you have it in place, you'll grab your third piece of tape, and you're going to just lay it down right next to it, getting it as close as possible. And then you'll take up your placeholder, moving it to the other side of that third piece, holding the place, and then getting your next piece of tape and putting it up against that one, and so on and so forth. And you'll do this all the way across for your first step of putting your tape down. Now, once we have our tape down, we want to just make sure you go back over it and make sure it's good and sealed down. And this first colors that we're going to use is, of course, we're going to take our red and we're going to begin to add a little bit of black to it. Now, the color that you're wanting is a deep red, almost burgundy, or right at that burgundy color. And once you get that desired color, that deep red or close to burgundy, then you're just going to take and you're just going to paint right in between those pieces of tape. Now we are going to be doing 2 coats of this color. We're also going to be using our hair dryer method to help it dry a bit quicker. And once you've got the 2 coats and they're completely dry, then you're going to pull the tape off of this step. To me, this was so satisfying. Now, once you have the tape pulled off, now we're going to turn our piece a quarter of a turn. Again, finding the center, and this one was pretty easy because we had the E on the end of it. And so I just laid the tape down on the E and just eyeballed it, getting it as straight as I could and pressing it down to seal the tape on. And then you're doing the exact same thing you did in the first step. You're just putting a placeholder and then putting your next piece beside it. Now that we have that done, we're ready to move to the next color. Now this is going to take the red and just using just a tiny bit of the black. You only want it about 1 shade darker than the original red. You definitely do not want it as dark as that first, as the burgundy color. You want it just 1 shade darker. You can see the difference in the colors there. And once you've got that mix, and you're ready to lay it down. Now with this color, with this step, you're only going to do 1 coat. And so just make sure that you get a good covering with this 1 coat, and that's all we're doing. And of course going in with our hair dryer to help it dry just a bit faster. Once that layer is dry, now we're going to turn it back a quarter of a turn to where the original place, and we're going to leave the tape on here. We're not going to remove this tape. And do you see where those lighter lines are, the lighter color? This is where you had step 1's original tape. We're going to go back with new tape, leaving this the longer pieces of tape on there, and we're going to cover the lighter colored red. making sure that you get it on there lined up as close as you can to where it was originally. Now once you have it on there and you've got it good and pressed down, then you're going to take your black and using a dabbing motion, you're just going to go in and fill in these little square areas with the black. And here comes the great reveal. Very satisfying to pull the tape off and see your finished product. This was so fun to me. And this turned out so well. I was so impressed with it. Unfortunately, as I was putting this technique on the chipboard heart, I lost the footage somewhere, somehow. The life of a YouTuber, right? But I did want to show you guys how you can use this technique on other surfaces. And as far as the twine flower that's in the corner, if you guys are interested in how I created that, I will link in the iCards above and in the description box below a video where I created that very same twine flower. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. Here are the supplies that I'm using for this project. Of course, I'm using my hot glue gun. I'm also going to be using just regular scissors and also pinking shear scissors. And of course you guys know that these are kind of like the little gator looking teeth scissors. Using a pen to do the tracing with. And I'm just making a simple paper heart template for the size that you want for your hearts. And the fabric I'm using is just some scrap fabric that I found. I also have a piece of a sweater in there as well. Some bamboo skewers. And I'm also going to be using some leftover floral moss. And these little wooden hearts, I've had these for I think since last year. And these are the kind that have that little sticky thing on the back of them. I have some floral foam, and I'm going to be using this galvanized bucket. And then of course some just florals that I have, some floral picks left over. So let's get into this. First thing, we're just going to take our fabric and we're going to flip it to where it's right sides meeting and take our little paper template that we cut out, and we're just going to trace it out on all of the fabric. Now the sweater material, a little bit, thicker, a little bit tougher to deal with, but you should be able to do that if you have sweater material, whatever fabric that you have on hand. And we're just going to cut them all out. Once we get it cut out, we're going to then turn them over and flip them over where you can see the outside. Now that we have them all cut out, I'm taking this pillow that I have had for a little while now. This I've stuffed when I've made pillows and other projects that I've done. It was $5 at Walmart, and it has been the best thing I have ever bought. Not ever, but it's an awesome thing. It's very inexpensive, a lot cheaper than buying the batting in the bags. You can use the filler. You can even use an older pillow if you have it. I'm just taking the hot glue gun now and just going around the edges. Now you can sew these if you're a sewer and want to do that, but I do sew, but I would much rather do this a lot quicker.
You'll do that all the way around, leaving an opening at the bottom so that you can stuff your batting in. And of course, we're just going to use just a little bit at a time as we're putting it in there. Now be careful and don't overfill and overstuff your little hearts, because you can bust the sides out if you're doing the hot glue method. But once you get it in there, then you're going to kind of put some more of the glue down there, but leaving a tiny, tiny hole at the bottom so that we can get the skewer in at a later time. Now with the sweater heart, because I did not want the white batting to show through that material, I'm using scraps from where I cut the hearts out, and just going around it, easing it and putting it in there, cutting it up and all of that. And once I finish getting it all put together, then I'm just going to take my scissors and kind of trim it up and make it look all nice and neat. Now that those are done, we're ready to prepare our skewers. Now, I wanted them to look a little more rustic, and so I'm going to be taking this burnt umber acrylic paint, my favorite, and we're going to be doing the staining method on these sticks. And what that is basically I'm going to use a sponge paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint on the paint and take a paper towel and wipe it off. And what that does is it gives the wood a stained effect, and it also dries much, much quicker. Now that we've got those done, we're ready to put them into our hearts. And using the little hole that's in the bottom, we're going to put those in, use our hot glue gun to seal it all together, and it also helps to hold that stick into the heart. Now the sweater was just a little bit more difficult because of the pieces that were in there, so I did take a little bit of hot glue to stick up in there and then did the same thing at the bottom. Now let's prepare our bucket. Now a lot of people like to leave the plastic wrap on their floral foam, but I don't. I just find, for me, it makes it easier to work with. So I'm going to take the plastic off, and then taking my hot glue and just kind of smearing a good amount on the bottom to help hold it into place. Now a little crafter's tip here. When it's time to put a new stick in your glue gun, and you'll stick it in the back and it's loose and you have to push on it to make sure it grasps and all that good stuff, take a little dab of the hot glue that's melted onto the end of your stick, and then stick it down into the hole and attach it to the stick that's already down there. Voila, it'll stay put. Now back to making our bucket here. The next step is to cover the floral foam, and I'm using the floral moss that I had on hand. It's not really the one that I would have liked to have used, but it is what I had on hand, and it turned out great. So we're just going to take our hot glue and just kind of get it around the edges really well and begin to put it in there. The goal is just to cover the floral foam. Now that that's done, we're going to take our florals that we have here, our picks, and cut them apart. I wanted the leaves to be on here, so I just pushed the leaves up to the flowers, and then I'm going to cut them all the way at the bottom because I want to keep the stems as long as I can in the beginning, because it's a lot easier to take off than it is to put back on. And one thing that you will find with me when I'm doing any kind of floral arrangements, I'm not a professional florist, whether I'm doing wreaths or these little arrangements. I'm just an eyeballer, if you want to call it that. I will put stuff in, I will take it out, I will move it around, I will start to trim off the bottom to get the height that I want, a little bit at a time. So as you see, I'm sticking the florals in, and then you'll see me take them out, you'll see me move them around and cut the bottoms off. But ultimately, it is what is pleasing to you as a crafter, as a creator. What you like to see, what is pleasing to you. And so that's what I wind up doing, especially with this one. I did want you to see the process though, so that you could see how I went about doing this part. Now that I've gotten it kind of like I like it, now I've taken and started putting in the greenery, which is of course my eucalyptus, to fill it in, and the gaps in the front and back, around the middles and all of that. You'll also see that I did try to put some other leaves and greenery in there, and I wasn't real happy with those. I wound up taking them out, but the final for me wound up being super pretty. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of these hearts to the arrangement. I thought that this would be a nice touch to have something a little smaller, a little glitz in there. Did the same technique with the little sticks, just kind of giving them more of that rustic look. And I thought about using the little sticker on the back, but as you will see, these stickers are not that great. It just fell right off. So we're going to remove that sticker from the back and use our nice trusty hot glue. We'll get those placed in there, and voila, you will see a beautiful arrangement. So fun. Here's what you're going to need for the first project. Of course, we're going to use a heart wreath form that I got from the Dollar Tree. Had this for a minute. We're also going to be using this 4-inch ribbon that I had from Christmas. And also during Christmas, I did a tutorial on how to make this bow and a couple of other bows. I'll make sure I link that in the iCard for you, with a little extra ribbon, a pair of scissors, and a hot glue gun. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is turn the wreath over, upside down, and I'm going to place the ribbon underneath, right down here at the point of the bottom part of the ribbon. We're just going to fold it over and place a little bit of hot glue to hold it into place. Now, right now it's kind of like a slip cover, but we're going to attach it to the wreath form as well with some hot glue. Just wanting to get it wrapped on there to begin with. So now I have turned it back around here and then taken and attached it to the wire wreath, and then just beginning to wrap it. And what you'll see is as I wrap the wreath, ever so often I am going to put a little glue down, and what that does is just basically help it stay into place. And you'll just continue to do that from the top all the way around. When I got to the top up here, in order to get the right kind of look, I decided that I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to start back over at the bottom, coming up the other side. That way you'll get some nice pleating, ruching, whatever you want to call it, on the ribbon, since it is kind of a cloth ribbon. Now, to cover this point down here, being that this is a 4-inch ribbon, and you can do it with the other width ribbons as well, we're going to tuck it in from the inside, and then we're going to do kind of like a packaging fold over that corner. And that little point at the end, you can kind of see what I'm doing. And then once you get the point covered and nice and secure, then of course we're going to start the wrapping it once again up the other side. Now of course the 4-inch ribbon is just a little bit to kind of make sure that the edges aren't folded over, and you know, you're getting it nice and a clean wrap around. But it winds up looking really pretty with the gathering that it does as you're bringing it around. And then just finishing it off at the top by pulling, tugging, and then cutting it off and securing it to the back. Now we're ready to add our bow, and just decide which side you want it on. And this bow, of course, was secured all together with a zip tie. So in order for us to attach our tail and also attach it to the wreath itself, I'm going to use some of this 22 gauge paddle wire that I have on hand to do just that. We'll just flip it over and attach it to the back. And always remember that you want to, after you've fluffed up your bow, you want to dovetail your the ends of your tails. And there you have it. It turned out so pretty.
I hope you guys are enjoying these Valentine projects so far, but I wanted to jump in here really quick and remind you guys that I am over on Instagram. I do some fun things over there. I, of course, share my projects from here on YouTube, but I also share some behind the scenes, kind of maybe of some projects that I'm doing, or some more personal things, family things, over in my stories. And I would love for you to come on over and say hi. So now let's get back into these fun Valentine projects.
Here's what you need for this second project. Of course, I've cut out a little paper template of a heart. You'll need a cutting tool of some kind, X-Acto knife, some scissors, a hot glue gun. You're also going to need acrylic paint in the color burnt umber or whatever brown you'd like to use, some twine, and I probably will be using some form of the ribbon. I'm not sure which one yet. And of course, as well as some foam core board. Now, what I did is just trace the heart onto the foam core board, and I used my utility knife, X-Acto knife, to cut them out. And I wound up doing 7 of them for my garland. You can use however many you want or how little, it doesn't matter. And basically I'm going to take this brown paint and I'm going to paint the front and the edges of the foam core board because I don't want any of this white showing through when we wrap them with some of the twine. And so basically that's just what I do. Of course, I've donned on my gloves and got to painting. Now that they are dry, we're ready to create these so pretty twine hearts. I think they are just so pretty to me. They're very rustic looking. And it's really simple. This twine is the thinner twine, and you can use whatever you have on hand, if it's the thicker or the thinner, but I like this thinner twine for this purpose. And so basically we're just going to take our twine and turn the heart over to where you see that white on the back, a little dot of glue, sticking it in there, and then just begin to wrap. Now you'll see I have no pattern, no rhyme or reason in how I do it. The one thing that I just make sure that I do is I'm going to make sure that I am wrapping in between each, piece of twine, just to kind of fill it in, but really going in no particular form or pattern. Just have fun with it. You'll also see that every so often I'll wrap it and then I'll stop and kind of put a little dab of glue there to kind of help, just hold it in place so that it doesn't slip off. And once we get to the end, we're just going to find a spot and cut it in the back, of course securing it with some hot glue. Now that we've gotten that done, of course your twine is a little hairy. It may need a little haircut, but you just kind of trim those off. And now we're ready to put a little loop on the top part of the heart, and this is where we're going to hang it when we create our garland. And it's just taking a small piece of the twine and cutting that off. And I use the heart before it just to make sure that I'm getting it in the same place and also the same height so that when it hangs it looks good. And there's the heart that we have, and and it's kind of hard to see it, so we put it on the brown there so that you can see the little loop. So also one of the things that I wanted is a little extra something to make it a little more colorful, and I took and just a few inches, it looks I think like 3 or 4 inches long, I'll cut some of this burlap red ribbon. I wound up cutting 6 of them, and I'm going to fold it over at the top and create a dovetail at the bottom. And now we've got them all done, and it's ready just to put it all together in any form that you want to, but I think that this turned out so cute. I love this on my fireplace. I love how it's very rustic looking, but yet definitely screams Valentine. Here are the supplies that you're going to need for the first project. And we're going to need a picture frame with all of the stuff removed. We're also going to need just a piece of copy paper and of course a piece of foam board, some ribbon, and I'm going to be using Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory to paint the frame. We're going to need of course a paintbrush, some scissors, a utility knife, and then I'm also going to be using this boxwood garland, wired garland that I got from Target's Dollar Spot a year or so ago. So you can use any kind of garland, ribbon, anything that you want to wrap with. So first we're going to take our piece of copy paper and we're just going to fold it in half. And like we did when we were kids, to make the perfect heart, you're going to just trace out half of the heart shape. Of course, making it however big you want it for your piece. Then of course we're just going to cut it out. And what I wind up doing is I also am going to cut out the inside of this heart. I already have one done here for you. And basically we're going to use this as a template on our foam core board. So now we're just going to take this and trace it out on our foam core board. And using a pencil we're going to do that, and then take our X-Acto knife and cut it along those lines that we traced out. Once we get it cut out, of course, we're going to be ready to paint that and then set it aside. So now that we've got it cut out, it doesn't have to be perfect because like I said, we are going to paint it and then we're going to be wrapping it with this garland. Now I'm going to paint it green, but I didn't have any green, so of course we're going to use yellow and blue, make green. So we'll get that mixed up and paint the front and the back and along the sides. Now that we have it painted, we're just going to set it aside and let it dry. So now we're going to take some needle nose pliers and remove those little metal pieces that hold the backing in on the frame, and then it'll be ready to paint. So now we're just going to take our ivory chalk paint and we're going to put 2 coats on this and letting them dry in between each coat. Make sure that you get all the way around the sides, on the outside and on the inside. Now we're going to set that aside on our first coat, and we're just going to go ahead and begin to wrap the heart. Now I'm doing it in small pieces, makes it a lot easier to bring through the middle and get it completely wrapped. All right, now that we have that done, I just want to give you a little crafter's tip. If you are like me and a little impatient, on my second coat, I'm going to use a hairdryer to speed up the drying process. Now that that's dry, we are ready to take the ribbon that you want to use and be able to attach it to the frame. And basically, I'm going to measure out 24-inch piece of ribbon 2 times. So basically 2 24-inch pieces of ribbon. And deciding which the front or the back side that I want to use of the ribbon, and then we're just going to attach it to the back side on either side of the top of the heart. Once we've got the ribbon attached to the back, we're just going to kind of eyeball it into place there, and we're getting ready to tie our ribbon to the top of the picture frame. And on the back side of this, we're going to just glue down the back side of the ribbon, and then we'll flip it back over and go ahead and just tie a knot into the front. Now I'm going to create just a very simple bow, making 2 loops and then just bringing them around and making the little bow with the ribbon, the 2 loops of ribbon, and then just adjusting it to the size that you would like to have at the top of each side of your heart. And that's the size bow that I'm using for this. And so now we're ready to you can trim your ribbon if you want to, you can leave it there. It's totally up to you. Make it your own. We're just going to put a little dab of hot glue and glue it to the top of each side. So definitely we'll do 2 bows on either side of the top of your heart. And that's what it looks like. I think it turned out so stinking cute. I love the way that this buffalo gingham check ribbon looks here. So here are the supplies you're going to need for project number 2. This is a little Farm Sweet Farm sign that I got at the Dollar Tree a while back ago. It has the little galvanized piece and some burlap on it. I'm also going to be using 100% acetone nail polish remover with some cotton balls. And then on my silhouette I created February with a heart and the number 14. So real simple here. We're going to just take cotton ball with some of the nail polish remover and easily remove that writing on the front, cleaning it up with a little bit of paper towel. And then once we've got it good and clean, we're just going to apply our February 14. Now you can use any kind of stickers. Dollar Tree has them. You can also buy them at Walmart and create this without even having to have a silhouette or a Cricut vinyl cutter. Another cute little sign that can be used anywhere in your decor. And for our third project, we're just going to go out back and pick out some twigs and get some type of vase. You can use the glass vases that you can get at the Dollar Tree. I found this at the thrift store and I painted it, had it on hand for a while now. And then I've also had these foam glitter hearts that you get in a pack at the Dollar Tree. I've had these for a while as well. And your hot glue gun. Basically, we are just going to take these little foam hearts, put a dab of glue on the back of them, and then just put them all over these twigs. You can put as many as you want, as few as you want. You really and truly can make this your own. Once you get it like you like it, then just stick them down in the vase that you have chosen, and voila, you will have the cutest, most simple decor piece for Valentine's Day.
I hope that you enjoyed these projects as much as I did. Give it a big thumbs up and let me know. This helps my channel out so much. Also, comment down below and let me know which one was your favorite. It's hard for me to choose because I love the projects that I bring to you. Also know that I care about each and every one of you, and I pray for the Fixer family daily. And always remember to keep looking up, because that's where it all is. I'll see you on the next video.